किरीटं वैरिञ्चं परिहरपुरः कैटभभिदः कठोरे कोटीरे स्खलसि जहि जम्भारि मकुटम् प्रणम्रेष्वेतेषु प्रसभमुपयातस्य भवनं भवस्याभ्युत्थाने तव परिजनोक्तिर्विजयते. So this seems like a very making a little fun of Devi here. So if you read the direct meaning, it is so in the previous verses we saw how Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, everybody is they're all trying to bow down to her, and the shine of the crown falls on her feet, and so on and so forth, right? So here it's in continuation of that. He's saying, when they are bowed down to you at your feet, and at that time Shiva appears suddenly, then you get up and you go towards him. So you are excited that you saw Shiva and you're going towards him. And in that excitement, when you're going towards him, the Devis who are all sitting beside you, all the other Upadevatas and Devis who are sitting beside you, they are cautioning you not to step over their crowns and trip off. When suddenly somebody's and you're expecting somebody and someone comes at the door, you immediately move from, if you're seated, you move with swiftness, right? You move swiftly and you go to greet them, right? So at that time, if there's something at your feet, around the feet area, there's a possibility that you may trip on it. So the Devis are all saying that don't trip, careful, Jakraya Pongo. So what are the meaning of each of these words here? Kiritam, Vairincham. So Vairinchi is Virincha. Virinchi is Brahma. So the Kiritam of Virincha, the crown of Virincha is Kiritam Vairincham. His crown is there. You avoid Parihara. Please avoid that. In front of you. It's there in front of you. And then what else is there? Kaitabha Bhidaha. Kaitabha, the killer of, the destroyer of Kaitabha, the Asura, Vishnu. His Katore Kotire, his crown is also there, which is hard. It's made of a very solid, hard substance. That also, it will trip you. Skhalasi. Avoid it. Jahi. And then you have also avoid Indra's crown. Jambhari. There is an Asura by the name Jambha, and Indra killed him. He is the Ari. So Jambhari Mukutam. So avoid that. And then Pranamreshu Eteshu. These are gods, these are deities who are paying obeisances to you. But you, without paying attention to that, in a very swift way, you are moving. For whom? For somebody who's come. Upayatasya bhavanam. To your bhavanam, somebody has come. Who's that? Shiva. Sadashiva or Shiva has come to your abode, and you rise in that honor. And this is the sound that your attendants are making. The attendants around you are telling you, take care, Brahma's crown is there, don't trip on it. There is Indra's crown, there is Vishnu's crown. Careful. Kalla pattu kamapo. When a kid gets up and goes in anxiety, when it probably knows that somebody interesting has come or someone has, see, like for example, if even children, if the father comes back after a completely full day's work, the child looks at the father and runs towards the father, right? Even if you know that the father is somewhere near the door, the child will run to greet the father there. And that excitement, it won't notice what's there under its feet or what is there in its path. It'll either jump over it or it may trip and fall also. The child may trip and fall because that excitement is so much that it's wanting to go there, wanting to reach the father, right? So this excitement Devi exhibits when she sees Shiva, and he comes suddenly without prior notice. Okay. And then he is not paying attention. So when Shiva comes suddenly, Devi is not paying attention to all these deities who are under her feet. They are all lying down there. They are all prostrating down to her. But she is ignoring them and running towards Shiva. So this is the whole visualization. Apparently, Adi Shankara had this visualization, a very interesting romantic visualization he had of Devi running towards Shiva and paying no heed to all the people around her, people who are sitting right under her feet, and also the other attendants or the Upadevatas and Upadevis that are around her. Without paying any attention, she's running. Now, this is this is the this is the words that Adi Shankara has written here. Now, what is he's trying, and again we know all of these are, there are hidden meanings behind it, in a way to present certain truths about some concepts. Some concepts are revealed in several shlokas, in several verses. There are bija aksharas or bija mantras hidden. In some, there are, in some visualizations, there are these concepts hidden within them. So here, one such verse, here it is essentially the meaning is of the Kundalini Shakti rising and going towards the Sahasrara. Okay. Kundalini Shakti, when it starts rising from the Mooladhara to Swadhisthana and Manipuraka and so on and so forth, it rises in at a certain pace, depending on the sadhana that the individuals do. Depending on the sadhana that we do, depending on the type of attention, focus, dhyana, or anything, even bhajan, nama sankirtanam, or chanting, whatever we do, depending on what we do, slowly the energy within us rises. Kundalini is nothing but the energy that is within us. Currently, that energy is distributed towards the Ida and the Pingala, which is the two aspects of our physiology and also our psychic being that we are. The energies are either flowing towards the Ida or the Pingala, or it keeps flowing between either of these two and keeps us engaged in duality. As long as the energies keep flowing between these two poles, Ida and the Pingala poles, we are constantly engaged in mental activity. We are constantly engaged in worldly transactions. We are constantly engaged in recognizing that this world is the truth, is real. This reality that we see, perceive as this world, we think that this is the truth. Okay. This particular situation of ours is because the same Kundalini energy is flowing either through the Ida or the Pingala and switching between the two. What we talk about as Kundalini rising is when the energy flows through the Sushumna. In the central nadi, in the central nervous system, in the Sushumna, when the energy flows through the Sushumna, that is when your mind automatically starts becoming meditative. Now, it can happen as an accident also. Suddenly, you may, a lot of times this will occur if you're sitting for some puja somewhere, some chanting somewhere, or even some music concert you've gone. Suddenly, something would put your mind into a state of peace and calm. It will try to, you'll just feel drawn to meditate. We've all experienced this, right? There are many times when or you go to a place, or you suddenly go to a place, or for example, you take Rishikesh, you go sit by the Ganga, there's nobody around, suddenly late evening, you're sitting there, suddenly you just feel like you want to meditate. Or you're going up the Rudraprayag, Kedar, Badri route. You're going there, suddenly you'll look at the beauty, the natural beauty there, and you'll feel like sitting and meditating. And this can happen in areas where there are mountains, it can happen in areas where there are seas and oceans. You just feel like you want to be withdrawn, right? Now, when that is happening, what is happening is, without your knowledge, without your doing, because of the environmental conditions, the energy is flowing through the Sushumna. It's flowing through the Sushumna Nadi. And when that happens, there is a certain peace and calm. But if you're conscious about it, you try to stay in that, then it becomes a conscious engagement, which means you're not unconscious. You don't go into sleep. A lot of time this also happens, right? You are in a very peaceful, nice place, or a flute music you just play, very beautiful. You would have actually woken up, taken a bath, freshened up, done everything, had your breakfast, come and sit. You would have had your tea, and you're sitting in a very beautiful, serene place. And then you have some flute music running, and then you just have nature out there beautifully. Suddenly you will feel sleepy. Right? The mind will relax, because the mind either knows to chatter, and if you tell it to shut up, it only knows to go to sleep. There's only two things that the mind knows to do. If you tell the mind shut up, then it will immediately push you to sleep. Now, how do you keep it? So now the process is through sadhana, through practicing the ability to stay awake and be calm. By practicing that, you are now observing the energy flowing through the Sushumna. Now, when this energy flows through the Sushumna, it wants to rise up. Sleep music has the same effect. Correct, Srividyaji? There is something called as white noise. This is usually put for very small infants. When you put this white noise, the child goes to sleep very easily, because the white noise probably has the frequency of your brain's delta waves. And delta waves are in the deep sleep. When your brain sends out waves, it's known as delta waves, the frequency at which it oscillates. So when your mind is able to be calm and attentive, it's calm and it's aware. When that happens, the energy is slowly trying to rise. This is what it does. Okay. And as it rises, it goes from one chakra to the other. Now, this is not a one-day event, or it's not like you go and sit there, somebody taps on your back and suddenly the energy rises. It's not like that. Over time, as you practice, Those things can also happen. Somebody comes and taps you and then energy suddenly rises, but that will be like you taking a pill and going on a high, right? It will fall down very quickly. But this is as part of a natural progression. As you do this, you become more meditative. The idea is to become more and more meditative naturally. When you find some time somewhere, if you're able to sit down and just be meditative and calm, whenever you find an opportunity, you don't have to always sit at your altar and today morning I didn't do meditation, okay, let's do tomorrow morning. You don't have to wait 24 hours to sit and meditate. Anytime you pick up, you find a gap, you find an interval, you can do that. You can just go within yourself and meditate. But now important thing is make sure you don't fall off asleep because again that is what we attempt to do and then the mind will push you to sleep. So we have to pay attention and stay awake as much as possible. And as we do this, we are trying to keep the energy kundalini in the sushumna nadi. We are not distracted by the dualities of Ida and Pingala, or the right and the left, or the cold and the hot. The dualities. We are not, the mind is not playing in dualities. Only when there is duality, there is mind. Mind is duality. Okay. When there is no duality, mind does not have a role to play. Because mind is the one that brings existence of this and that, I and it, me and they, aham and idam. Mind brings this distinction. When the mind is put to rest, this is not there. This distinction is not there. So in this state, all you are is pure awareness. You're quietly just watching, Sakshi. As a Sakshi, you're just watching. And when you're watching, you will see this energy is rising up. You may not be able to notice it because we are not trained. We are not yogis who have trained to notice the energy rising. But as the energy rises, the more calm you become, the more perceptive you become. The more perceptive you become, the more the mind becomes calmer, the more perceptive you become, which means you are able to perceive your environment in a certain way, experience it in a much richer way. Right? Now this happens, what is happening is Shiva is waiting there at the Sahasrara. Okay. Now when does this Kundalini Shakti hit the Sahasrara? You can do sadhana only until Agnya. Even in the yogic practices, the sadhana is always offered only till the Agnya, which is the sixth chakra, which is here, the pineal gland. So, Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipuraka, Anahata, Vishuddhi, Agnya. These are the 6 that you are able to bring your energies to. The 7th one, or the Sahasrara, is not something that you do. It happens. That blossoming or touching that has to happen on its own. So that is the meaning of Shiva comes. Here, when it's shown as though Shiva is coming unattended and unannounced, that is the meaning that experience of Sahasrara, the Kundalini Shakti meeting with the Sahasrara, is happening. You cannot tell when it will happen. One cannot say it will happen at this time or that time. This is the experience of Samadhi. So Adi Shankara is saying, this, your Kundalini is trying to reach there. And when it comes to this location, this position where it's possibly going to hit the Sahasrara, it goes in a rapid fashion. It goes in a rapid way. Like how Devi starts running towards Shiva, how it is expressed as Devi is running towards Shiva, it is actually the Kundalini Shakti trying to rise towards Sahasrara, and it's constantly doing it. It's constantly waiting for that Shiva to appear. When would somebody jump up and run towards the visitor? When you're constantly awaiting their their visit. And then this agitation is there constantly to rise and trying to meet Shiva. And this process, when this process happens, and this is what is said as this, from the Mooladhara all the way up is the effort of the sadhaka, and the Shiva that comes from the Sahasrara down is grace that descends. So this is effort, and that is grace. Kundalini Shakti rising up is effort, which is Devi. Devi is effort. Sadashiva is Anugraha. So that is why you see in the Panchakritya Parayana, Srishtikartri Brahmarupa Goptri Govinda Rupini Samharini Rudra Rupa Tirodhana Karishwari Sadashiva Anugrahada. The fifth one is Sadashiva Anugrahada. So first four are Devi's functions: Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, Tirodhana. Srishtikartri Brahmarupa, Goptri Govinda Rupini, Samharini Rudra Rupa, Tirodhana Kari Ishwari, then Sadashiva Anugrahada. So these four are the effort in the upward direction that we make as sadhakas, and what comes down is grace. Like Swami Shivananda, Guru's Guru, he said, grace that descends is is proportionately equal to the effort that you exhibit. So if you want a lot of grace, you have to put in a lot of effort. Now, lot is a very, I mean, it's not numerical lot that way, but the effort that we put in is directly proportional to the grace that you receive. Okay, so this is the meaning of this particular verse. In fact, even in I'm reminded of Gita Govinda. In Gita Govinda, there is a similar, the whole sequence of Gita, those who are familiar with Jayadeva's Gita Govinda, it's a beautiful Ashtapadi. It's also called as Ashtapadis. Those who are familiar with the Bhajana Sampradayam, Nama Sankirtana Sampradayam, it's called Ashtapadi. Ashtapadis are sung in Radha Kalyanam and different other, the Bhajana Mandalis, they sing this at several occasions. There are 24 Ashtapadis. There are 24 songs which form the whole Gita Govinda, written by Jayadeva. He was a saint. And the way there also it appears is Radha goes towards Krishna, but at some point Krishna comes towards Radha. At a certain point, Krishna comes towards Radha, and then the union happens. So it's always like that. In fact, even in the there is a star. How does a star look? It has got an upward triangle, a triangle that's pointing upwards, and a triangle that's pointing downwards. That's how a star appears, right? One overlapping the other. So the triangle that's pointing upwards is representation of the man going towards his ultimate nature or the cosmic reality. And the downward triangle is cosmic consciousness trying to come down to us, to the level of human interaction. So this particular union is, which is why Star of David. Star is a very popular symbol, right? The Star of David is also very popular in biblical history and stories. So it means that the effort and grace both have to work together to get this union of yoga, this union to happen. So which is what is Kiritam Vairincham, this particular verse that Adi Shankara is talking about. Okay, so this is the process where Devi is running towards Sadashiva, and he comes without announcing, which is how grace always occurs. Grace does not, you cannot tell when you will get grace. I have done X amount of things, now grace, can you please flow? Doesn't work that way. Grace will come when it comes. We just have to be receiving of it. And then when it comes, we run, we receive it. We go and we receive it. Right? So this is the whole verse here. Kiritam Vairincham Parihara Purakaita Bhabidah Katore Kotire Khalasi Jahi Jambhari Mukutam Pranamreshveteshu Prasabham Upayatasya Bhavanam Bhavasyabhyuthane Tava Parijanotir Vijayate. So, oh, sorry, Shiva, you're saying, and we will never know how much is required. We will never know. So you just have to keep doing. The fact of the matter is, it will always come. That is a promise. Grace will always descend. You just have to make yourself a patra, a recipient, a proper recipient of grace, and it will always come. It has always been the experience of masters and everybody who've been on this path that it always descends. Grace always descends. In fact, once somebody asked Ramana Maharshi. Somebody asked Ramana Maharshi, Bhagavane, unga arul venum அப்படின்னு. I want your grace, Bhagavane. Then Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi says, arul தானே இருக்கு, நீ இல்லாம போக அப்படின்னு. So when you move out, எனக்கு அருள் வேணும் அப்படிங்காச்சு. நாங்கிறது, when you move this out, then what exists there is only grace. And we currently are letting this I interfere with this whole flow of grace. Okay? So that is this particular shloka. Okay, we will pause here and then go to the next one.